I'm going to school every day. I'd ride my bike, and it's Oregon, it's the fall, so it's raining. And back and forth I'd go from school, and every day as I walked out of school, I'd kind of have my head down, I'd have my backpack, and I'd walk out to my bike and then ride home. And there was this one day in particular where I walked out, I came up to the bike rack, I looked through all the bikes, and I couldn't find my bike. I thought, well, sometimes my mind isn't fully functional. Maybe I parked on the other side. So I went to the other side of the school, and I looked all over for my bike. I couldn't find it there either, so I walked back, and by this time, most of the bikes are gone, and then I see the chain from my bike cut, laying on the ground. Somebody stole my bike. And I remember sitting there just going, ugh. It already felt like life was hard. I already was in a place that I wasn't happy, and now somebody stole my bike. So I walked home, and I get home finally. It took me a long time. On the way home, it's raining, so I get there, I'm just soaking wet. My parents were like, why did it take you so long? I said, somebody stole my bike. And my dad's like, how do you know? I'm like, well, because I parked it there in the morning, and after school, it was gone. Unless you somehow conveniently bought me an invisible bike, it's gone. And I just remember ugh. The saving grace that I had, though, is for some reason, before that, my parents had bought me a banjo. Never seen anybody play banjo, never seen a banjo before. Don't know why we bought it for me. Have no idea, but there was this banjo, and I don't know if you've ever heard a banjo, but if you do one strum on the banjo, you instantly just go from just feeling like you were punched in the gut to joy. And so after my bike was stolen, I still went to my lessons at Lancaster Mall, back when those still existed, and I'd walk proudly through the center of Lancaster Mall, holding my banjo case, and I'd take my banjo lessons, and I'd sit there and I'd practice, and I'd go home, and every night for an hour or so, I'd sit there and just play my banjo. And then somebody stole my banjo. What in the world? I just remember it wasn't like a wet wool blanket on top of me. It was a wet wool blanket with another one, and then another one, and then a right in the gut. And I just was just done. And for years, that feeling of sorrow crept back into my life every now and then. It's like I had this giant box just filled with pain and struggle and anger, and it was just tied to this chain, then I would just drag it around with me. So there's two ways to live life. You can live the life in such a way where you're stepping all in with your faith for God. Where you can look at this, where you step all into this unstoppable life that God dreams for you. Or you can live the type of life where you're building it for yourself and you're pursuing the things that you want and you desire. And I realized as I went back and forth in these two pursuits of trying to live the life that I dream for myself versus the dream or the life that God dreams for me, this box kept creeping up into my life. And that season of doubt or struggle just was there. Jesus talks in John chapter 5. He says this, he says, soon another feast came around, and Jesus was back in Jerusalem near the sheep gate. In Jerusalem, there was a pool in Hebrew called Bethesda with 5 alcoves. Hundreds of sick people, blind, crippled, paralyzed, were in these alcoves. One man had been an invalid there for 38 years, and when Jesus saw him stretched out by the pool and knew how long he'd been there, he said, "Do you want to get well?" The sick man said, "Sir, when the water is stirred, I don't have anybody to put me in the pool, and by the time I get there, somebody else is already in." Jesus said, "Get up, take your bedroll, and start walking." The man was healed on the spot, and he picked up his bedroll, and he walked off. And I've been looking at that passage, and I was realizing that in a sense, in seasons of my life, I've been that paralyzed man. You see, it said that he was there for 38 years he'd been paralyzed. For 38 years, he'd been stuck in this life where he's just there on his mat waiting for this next opportunity. And Jesus comes to him and he says, do you want to be healed? That's a yes or a no question. I think obviously a lot of us will go, well, yeah, of course he would. And yet a lot of us drag around this box of sorrow, of pain, of doubt, of insecurity, of I'm not good enough, of all kinds of stuff. And when you're asked, do you want to be healed from that? It's almost as if sometimes we go, well, no, because that's not really possible. This is just who I am. Do you want to be healed? See, the man had to make a choice. He had to, in his mind, say yes. And then the first thing Jesus says to him, get up. Just get up. So the man now has to respond, not from his mind, but from physically, from his body. He has to get up from the ground that he's laying on and stand up. Which, let's be honest, that's paralyzed. If you've been laying there for that long, and even if you've heard of this rabbi, this teacher, this Jesus man that's been walking around healing people, if he walks up to you and looks you in the eye and says, get up. Yeah, but what about this? What about all these things that I'm holding on to? Get up. And you see that the man got up from his place, and it said that he began to walk. You see, when I look at how we're called to live, this key idea, step all into the unstoppable life that God dreams for you, well, sure, that sounds all great, but that's for the visionaries, the people that are doing all kinds of big things. I'm just insignificant. I'm just nobody. Get up. He then says this. He says, take your bedroll. See, as I've been looking at this passage, I've been focused on the fact that Jesus told him to get up, and then he told him to start walking. But sandwiched in between those two things are this simple statement of, take your bedroll. I don't know if you've ever been in a homeless community. I remember once as a kid, I was in a leper colony with my dad up in northern Thailand. I remember in India, I went walking through this homeless community. I've seen all kinds of homelessness and struggle and doubt and beggars. I remember in Thailand, there was this guy that was just crawling along the street, paralyzed, just asking for money. In almost every single situation, this person has a box. And that box is their home. And it's where all their possessions are. And so when Jesus says to him, take your bedroll, I realized in my own life, that's take everything that I own and take it with me, or get rid of it, or stop comparing. You see, Jesus tells the man to get up and take your bedroll. Take everything that you have and start walking. The problem is, for us in this day and age, this box represents my identity, and I want it to look nice and polished. In reality, it's broken, and so I put new things in front of it to kind of hide what it looks like. So then I have to get a bigger house, or I then look at if I have a better income, I can put that in my box and it tells people my story. Or we hear of somebody that has the exact same job at a different company, but they make $10,000 more than I do. That's not fair, so I'm throwing that in my box. They have more social media likes than I do. They have better looks than I do. Whatever that is, we keep throwing it in their box. I go to the same barber that guy has, but his mullet is amazing. Somebody had to say it. Get up and take your bedroll. You see, what happens is we keep throwing things in this box, and we keep thinking that that's going to bring us a better sense of identity, or it's going to make us more usable for God, or we use all kinds of excuses, and yet it's still an old box that we keep throwing all kinds of new stuff in, but it doesn't change. For me, for years and years and years, I put in my box just simply, I want to be known. And everything that I did, I had to revolve around the fact, do people know who Paul Gunther Jr. is? That's the only thing that mattered. I owned a music company, and then we owned a marketing company, and we started working in the early days of Christian music with bands like Audio Adrenaline, the OC Supertones, Third Day, all kinds of bands for years. And it became more successful, and every time it was like, okay, now I just need this, now I just need that. I keep needing, I want this award or whatever it was. I kept pursuing it and putting it in my box, and I'd get it. And I just need one more thing. I remember in 98, this guy named Stephen Prendergrass, he was the president of Squint Entertainment. He called me and he said, hey, we just signed this band called Sixpence None the Richer. I'd like to hire your company, but I need you to fly out and meet with me. So you do what you do, and I got on a plane, and I took my team, and we went to his hotel room. My assistant, Kim, walked in with me. She's an Enneagram 8. If you don't know what that is, research it. And she was a redhead, which just meant she spit fire all the time. And I just said, I need you to just be quiet and let me do the talking, all right? You can figure out stuff later, but shh. So we walked into Stephen's hotel room. We're talking, and he says, hey, this band, I want to play you this song. So he pulls out of his briefcase. Back in the day, if you had a CD where you could burn another CD, like you were the man. And so he pulled it out, and it just said Sixpence. Then he pulled out his boom box. That's a stereo for some of you people. He put in the CD and hit play, and this song starts playing. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And he goes, I'm telling you, this song is a hit. He goes, I need to know, can your company, I know you're doing like grassroots marketing and stuff, but we need this song. We're going to be playing it in all 50 of the top markets. I need 20 to 30 people in every market that whenever this song plays on the radio, your people are calling in and requesting. Can you do that? Yeah. He says, I'm pretty sure that as this continues to grow, they're going to start doing some big tours. I need your people in all these markets, every single where they go, for a month beforehand, marketing it in the actual city. Can you do that? Yes. Back in the day, we used to go to the store to buy our music. And he said, I need you to go to every store in every major market with your team and tell us how many CDs are in there and where they're placed. Can you do that? Yeah. Kim's looking at me the whole time like, what in the world is wrong with you? And I just kind of keep giving her one of these. Stop. Pretend you have brown hair right now. And then he says, we're pretty sure this is going to go into Japan and all throughout Europe. Are you guys established there yet? I said, yeah. Somebody's voice goes up, they're lying. We signed a 6-month contract. I left. As soon as the door shut, Kim said to me, Paul, we don't have the ability to do any of those things. And I said, yeah, but we have 2 weeks to figure it out. And we went home and we figured it out. And for years, we kept working on this, on different radio formats. And I remember the day when it went #1 worldwide. And I put that in my box, and I felt like the man. But then the next week, it was #3 and #7 and #11. So Stephen called me. He said, we need a follow-up single. We have this other song. Listen to this song. Tell me what you think. So he starts playing this song. And as I'm listening to it, it's this song called There She Goes. And I'm sitting there, he's like, I believe this is a hit as well. So we do the same thing. We start marketing this song. I start putting these things in my box, and I start feeling really good about myself. It doesn't go #1, but it goes top 10 in the world. And I just remember just feeling like I just am on this treadmill. My goal from the very beginning was to get a platinum album, which is 1 million album sales. I could play the banjo a little bit. Outside of that, I can't sing, read music, or do anything else. But I was finding my niche. And I remember in the mail, this package came. And I opened it up in the middle of our office. And there was this platinum album. And it said, Sixpence None the Richer. And then it said, presented to Paul Gunther. And I'm like, that's my dad. It's not even my name. My name's Paul Gunther Jr. And I wanted to just give it to my dad and go, here, I did it all, but good luck. And then it says sale of more than 1 million copies. For you young people, it actually says compact disc and cassettes. And I took it and I walked into my office and I closed the door. And I remember just going, I did it. Like I did the impossible. Paul Gunther Jr. And then I went, now what? And so I sat it down, and I just set it down. I just started processing. And it was weird because it was like that feeling of when my banjo got stolen. It was just this incomplete. You know, you go back to what Jesus said. He asked the man, do you want to be healed? Yes or no? Okay, fine, get up. Take your bedroll. And then he says, start walking. You see, I had been walking for a long time. But I was walking in the wrong direction. I was walking kind of close to Jesus, but I always made sure I was right there with him. I wasn't going to walk behind him. I'm going to walk with him because I got a platinum. And now I'm thinking, what do I do? You see, all the time I have people will talk to me. When I look at this key idea, step all into the unstoppable life that God wants for you. Yeah, but how? Well, Jesus said, start walking. Well, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I do that? My question is always the same. What brings you joy? Like, honestly, in your soul, what brings you joy? First thing that pops to your head. For me, the first thing is when Justin Bieber comes on the radio and my grandson's listening and he starts jumping up and down, which makes me jump up and down, which makes my whole family jump up and down. That brings me joy. Now, until we started dance ministry here at the Grove, that's incomplete. I can't do anything with that. But the other thing that I love is I love to be in my shop late at night and build things. I love creating, and I realize as I create and I build, I can bless other people through that. I can build things for here at the Grove. And I don't even need to be celebrated or talked about because it fills my soul. What brings you joy? You pick up a banjo, play one ring, joy. You know, at the Grove, when COVID hit, we went from this to nothing in a week. And Palmer and I were talking, he said, I need you to help me figure this out. We need to go online completely. We had nothing. And I said, figure it out. I'm pretty good at that. I'll find some other people that are smarter than me, and then giddy up. We took down this railing. We got rid of all these chairs. We made that our front. We put the cameras right here and right there. And all these other people that had kind of been behind the scenes took over. Now, what you don't realize, for 5 years there was a sign on that outside wall that said, bathroom coming soon. Every week I'd get people that walk up and they'd go, oh, is this not the bathroom? I said, no, it's coming soon. It's over there. What we did is we converted that. The guys that know what they're doing. Here was last night. Here's a video. Here's what's happening right now, but that was last night, right now behind that wall. You see, in order to take this all online, apparently we need all kinds of stuff like this that I have no idea what it is. There's cables someplace that they pulled everywhere, going from there into there, back over there. There's cameras. There's all kinds of stuff happening, and we're never even aware of it. You see, sometimes when you go all in with your faith, you're going all in, and no one even knows it's happening. But if you don't do it, the entire thing falls apart. You see, I realize when you start walking, when you say yes, when you get up, when you take your bedroll, when you look at what you're putting in your box, it changes everything. Because everyone has that ability and that giftedness to go all in and to make a difference. I sat in my office, honestly, for 2 weeks, staring at this thing. I put it on my wall. I'm like, I don't like it there. I put it on my desk. No, I put it on my bookshelves. I put it in the trash for a day or so. And I realized as I was staring at this fulfills that first dream of building the life that you dream for yourself. And that dream that I said to myself years earlier, I'm going to be known, I'm going to be famous, and I'm going to have a platinum album. Worthless. In 20 years from now, no one's going to know who Sixpence None the Richer is other than the old people. I show this to my kids. I'm like, look, I have 1 million album. I have a platinum album. They're like, cool, can we play catch? Daddy, can I use this for a table? No. This is precious. And yet reality, this is all about self. That other statement, step all into the unstoppable life that God dreams for you. What does that look like? What does it mean to start walking? So I asked myself the question, okay, what brings me joy? Like in my faith walk, in walking with Jesus, what brings me joy? I was volunteering every Wednesday and Sunday with our junior high and a high school ministry at our church. And I realized when we played dodgeball and I hit a kid in the head and I knocked him over, that's called ministry. That brought me joy. When I took all kinds of garbage and I put it in a blender and I challenged kids to drink it and they would, ministry. But more so, I loved being with those kids because at the same time I was serving, I was working towards this. And not a single one of those kids knew anything about it, nor did they even care. The only thing they cared, there was once I was gone on tour and I came back. It was this massive tour, it was amazing, full of myself. And one of the kids said to me, Paul, where have you been? I'm like, I was on this tour. We went da-da-da-da-da-da. He's like, you missed my soccer game. And I realized those are the eternal things. When it says to go all in, that's how lives are radically altered and changed. And I started diving into that because eventually what happens when you start walking, eventually walking becomes running and jumping into the unknown. And you do these small little prayers of God, okay, I guess I'm going to ask you to use me. Or I'm going to ask you to make yourself real to me. And these small little prayers that seem insignificant begin to grow, and these small journeys of stepping in a little bit with our faith, when you begin to see Jesus working and moving, you're like, wait, I need to take a bigger step. Because that was pretty amazing. And then you start running. And before you know it, you are just flying through life on this unbelievable journey of saying, God, I'm asking you to use all of me and to give me this unstoppable life, the life that only you can dream of. Because I dreamed of some pretty cool things, and you topped that. Palmer's dad, Dr. Jack Chinchin, used to give a sermon called The River of Impossibility. If you haven't seen it, go back on our YouTube. He's done it at least 3 times here. You need to watch that sermon. So I've seen it 3 times here. I saw it 4 times in Malawi. The last time I saw it, I was standing in the back of the room with Blessings Chibambo, our country director, who went to ABC as well. And I said, Blessings, how many times you heard this sermon? He said, at least 20. I said, does it get old? He goes, no, it gets greater every single time. Because what happens is you have a greater understanding of what it means to go all in. And this river of impossibility, you see, what you begin to see is that the impossible becomes possible. And the faith that was status quo now is beyond anything you can imagine. In Joshua chapter 3, the Israelites have been wandering through Egypt and through the wilderness, and they're finally at the promised land, but now they have to cross over this river of impossibility. And it says, giving orders to the people, when you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priest carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark, and do not get near it. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's water, go and stand in the river. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest, yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled in a heap a great distance away. You see, when you read this passage, what you have to understand, and the Ark of the Covenant was a box similar to this with these poles coming out of it, and the priests would carry it. And people stayed away from this. The only people that could be near it were the priests. And even the priests, if they touched it, if they tripped, if they stumbled, if they fell, they knew if that touched them, they would die. And so it says you've been wandering throughout the desert for all these years, but now it's time to cross over the River Jordan. But the River Jordan's at flood stage, which means that river is brown and it's murky and it's steep. And it says you're to step into the river, and when your feet touch the water will stop flowing. Now, in my thinking, I carry this, I've got it on my shoulder, I'm going to come to the edge of the river, and I'd rather go to a place where I can kind of see the bottom, and it's a simple step, and I wade in, and I know I'll be okay, because if I only just do a little step, then I'll be safe. But God tells them, no, go to the edge of the river and just step in. And in fact, it's not going to stop flowing until your feet are wet. And yet they won't be. They'll be dry, and the river will stop. You see, sometimes the impossible is possible, but we say, well, those things only happen in the Bible. I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to be willing to step into the impossible. Because if you never step into the impossible, you never know if it is possible. The quote that Dre gave says this, it said, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. I keep this on my shelf to this day. Every morning when I walk in my office, I look at it. Because now it tells me that this stuff doesn't matter. It also tells me to be humble. It's a reminder, Paul, you've got pride issues. Settle down. But it also tells me, look, if I can do this on my own, imagine what I could do if God just had complete control. Imagine if I fully stepped into the impossible. See, in high school and college and years after that, I was an adrenaline junkie. I loved rock climbing. I loved cliff diving. I loved anything that might kill me. I hung underneath a train trestle once as a train was going over 10 inches from my head. Let go, fell in the river. Greatest experience of my life. Almost died, but I didn't. And what I found with my faith is it's almost that same adrenaline rush. I don't know if that's theological or not. But I don't believe Jesus calls us to live these safe lives. When he said to the man, get up, take your bedroll and start walking, he then comes to him later and says, hey, you better make sure you're walking in the right direction. Stop sinning. Start living differently. Start realizing that I didn't hear you, I didn't heal you so that you could just go through life. And yet that's how a lot of us live. We just are like, we keep putting this stuff in this box. And yet what happens when I started putting junior high ministry and all kinds of other stuff into my box, man, that was amazing. It's like I could carry this thing around with forever because I loved it. Step into the impossible. You see, what happens when you start living with that statement, step all into the unstoppable life that God dreams for you, it's more and more and more. Palmer and I were talking this last week about Justice College. It'd be a lot easier for us here at the Grove and leadership to kind of just accept status quo and just keep doing church on Saturday nights and Sundays and keep sending people out into our communities and around the world. But stepping in and trying to start a college, that's hard. I firmly believe that when Palmer's parents started the African Bible College, he also began to lay that in Palmer's heart. And we can stand back and watch Palmer try to do that, or we can realize that we're all uniquely gifted. That Enneagram 8, those people that are filled with fire and willing to get things started. Go back if you weren't here for that series, or buy the book Road Back to You, and see how God has uniquely made all of us as separate, different individuals with this unique giftedness. I'm an Enneagram 7, which means my head's constantly stuck in the clouds in la-la land. And I need people walking with me that bring me back down to reality. The guys behind that room, most of them are detail people that love those details and making A is connected to B, and this is all wired properly. And I walk in and go, neat. You see, when you go all in, I don't believe that you have to become this amazing pastor or amazing visionary or amazing missionary. I believe that you have to be willing to stand behind the person in front of you and serve them and walk with them. I believe that you have to see the intimate and small things of the people all around you, but also be able to see the vastness and the hugeness of God. I believe that you need to be able to step into the impossible. We had a girl named Rosa move here this last week. She moved from Peru to Biola, got her degree, heard about Justice College, said, I'd love to come be your first recruiter. So she moved here, and Palmer said, hey, she just moved here, she needs a car. I said, well, how'd she get here? She said her roommate brought her here and dropped her off. Can you help me get her a car? I said, sure, I'll get her a car. I'll put a post on Facebook. He's like, you'll put a post on Facebook? I said, sure, why not? The next day he asked me, he said, did you put that post on Facebook? I said, no, I forgot. I said, Palmer, I'll get her a car in 1 hour. And he said, that's impossible. I said, well, that's funny, because that's what I'm speaking on this week. So I put this post up. It said, meet Rosa. She's from Peru and is volunteering with Justice College. She doesn't know I'm posting this. I'd like to give her a car. Sometimes the impossible. What does that say? Sometimes the impossible, da-da-da. Sometimes the impossible is possible. Glasses. Can you help? So I told Rosa, I walked in, I said, hey, I take pictures with all the new people. Can I get a picture with you? Pretend like you're working. And she's like, sure. I don't take pictures with any of the new people. I just say hi, and then I walk away. So we put that post up. Within, I'm not kidding you, 1 minute, a friend of mine texted me and said, hey, I'll give you $1,000 if that helps. I'm like, yes. So I put it on. I said, hey, we just got $1,000. Anybody else want to help? And we started getting all these people saying, I can Zelle you, whatever that is, money and all kinds of stuff, and sending money and giving. And it was just this amazing journey. In 23 minutes, I got a message from a guy that said, I got a car. She can have it. And I yelled to Palmer's office, I got a car. And he's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did. In reality, it wasn't me at all. It was our community of stepping into the impossible. Rosa's right here. Rosa, you need to wave. I told her last service, she didn't know. She got a free car. Now, she hasn't seen it yet, but there's still a car coming. Here's the beauty of it. My wife last night told me, she said, hey, I got a message about the car, but I told the person you already got a car, so I told him no. I'm like, you told him no? There's so many cars. I said last night, I'm like, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. So I texted the person back. I said, hey, I have this girl named Shernice. She stands right here, and she sings every week. She has to take an Uber or get a ride to church every week to see you. You guys know her. I said, she needs a car. She's like, okay, we'll bring it Wednesday. So not only did Rosa get a car, but Shernice gave a car. I'm going to start a car lot, and all you just need is, I just need a car. You get one. You see, when you go all in with your faith, you get to be a part of this impossible journey. And there's all these different roles. There's people up front, but there's people behind the scenes. There's people making contributions. There's people walking alongside people. There's people encouraging and lifting up. When you go all in with your faith, you not only see the amazing, impossible things that God can do, but you see the minute details. In my family, if you're having a hard day every now and then, I'll say to them, well, at least your banjo wasn't stolen. And this last Christmas, we have this kid named Austin Baker who moved here 3 years ago. He moved here just to get away from California. And then everyone else came and bought all our houses. But anyway, he came and is living with us. And the first day he moved in, my wife found out she had cancer. He's like, what do I do? Do I leave? I said, nah, you're part of the journey now. And he's just been with our family through this entire season. And so on Christmas, he brought out this box, this exact box. He dragged it from the garage. He said, here's your present. I'm like, you're giving me a box? Like, I don't want your garbage. He goes, Paul, open the box. So I went over and I opened up the box, and I looked in there, and I pulled this out. Now, I only had like 2 months of lessons, so I only know how to go. See, you're smiling. But what this did, it broke me, because I realized that Austin saw my sorrow and my pain and the jokes behind it. But this doesn't represent a banjo. This represents a season in life. And I would encourage you to walk with people around you and go all in with your faith. Because not only can you move mountains and give cars away, but you can bring somebody a smile and change their heart. But you got to tune it first. Go all in.